Hello, welcome or welcome back. Today we are talking on the topic of specific people and in particular the assumptions that you have about the gender that you are interested in, because that is going to feed into what is happening with your specific person. So that's what we're talking about today. Stick around. My name is Hedley Derenzie. I am a qualified life coach and author, and I'm super passionate about the amazing teachings of the law of assumption as originally taught by the great American mystic Neville Goddard. It is the stories and assumptions that we tell that create our life. So if you want to change any part of your life, then you have to start by changing the story and the assumptions. And if you want to create the most amazing life, then you need to know how to tell the most amazing stories and make the most amazing assumptions. So since rediscovering these teachings, I'm now doing this for myself, and I want to help you to do the same. If you would like support with this in terms of changing any part of your life using the principles of the law of assumption, I am available for one-to-one coaching. I also have a free 21-day set yourself up with the ultimate self-concept course, which is the ultimate story that you need to be telling about yourself, and that's available for instant access. Or if you just want to stay connected, I am on Instagram, and all of those details are in the comments box below, so check that out. Okay, let's get into it. So today we are talking about specific people and relationships and the assumptions that we hold in consciousness about all of that, because, well, one, I haven't done a video on specific people in quite a while, and all relationships, and I just thought that would be something that would be good to do a video on, because often I find, and certainly for myself, it is specific people that bring us into these teachings. I remember the person that I was involved with early last year that was immediately identified as, you know, just another, like it was the same pattern that I'd experienced most of my life, to the point where I was just like, I can't do this again. And I went searching for answers and help on YouTube, and I came across the law of assumption, which was something that I had been exposed to in my early 20s, and it had just gone over my head through Dr. Wayne Dyer. He wrote a book called Wishes Fulfilled on the law of assumption specifically, and Neville, who he credited as his spiritual mentor. So I highly recommend that book, Wishes Fulfilled. So I rediscovered these teachings as a result of a specific person that I was involved with. And then I started to apply these teachings like immediately, because I was like, oh my God, thank God, you know, thank imagination. So here I am, and here you are, and a lot of times we come back into these teachings, or come to these teachings, because of a relationship. Because it is through these love relationships where all of our shit really does come to the surface. All of the patterns, all of the old stories, all of the crap. It's like the one thing we want the most is the one thing that causes us the most angst. And it really doesn't need to be this way. And they are a fertile learning ground, that's for sure. But really, we are here to experience the most amazing experiences for ourselves, just as long as we can get those shitty stories out of the way. And that is where the law of assumption can really help. It doesn't matter what state your relationship is in, whether you're in contact with your specific person, whether you're in a loving relationship with a specific person, whether you've never even spoken to your specific person. It doesn't really matter. If your specific person's married to somebody else, whatever it is, whatever situation you are in, this applies to you. These are the characters that we've set up in our movie, and we are all the characters in the movie. We are also the producer, the director, the writer, the actor, like the casting director, the stage director, and the audience. So we have a front row seat to our own movie, which we are always writing in every moment based on the thoughts that we're thinking, the assumptions we're holding, and the stories that we're telling ourselves. So we really want to look at what are the stories and assumptions we're holding in consciousness, because that is what is going to get pushed out and reflected back, and especially in our relationships with our specific people. When it comes to relationships or specific people, if you have ever experienced a situation that's unfavorable, or perhaps you're in that situation now, it's because there's a story running in your consciousness, because your consciousness is what causes your reality. So it doesn't matter what is happening in your reality. If you can really get that concept and really own it, that you are the cause of your reality, and it's not a case of fault or blame or putting yourself into some kind of shame state. This is not what this is about. This is simply about observing and acknowledging the power that we all have that exists in our imagination, and that how that gets pushed out and reflected back. And if your reality is not favorable, if your relationship's not favorable, if your situation is not favorable, that is because there's something running in consciousness that isn't favorable. And all we need to do, we don't even need to know what it is or where it came from, just accept that that is what is causing that reality to get reflected back in the way it is. And then we change the story. We can actually, and this is not about spiritual bypassing either, I just want to make that clear. We are about acknowledging what is real and true for us in this moment, and then asking ourselves, is this favorable? Is this what I want? And if the answer is no, then that is where it's up to you to change the story and align to the state of consciousness that you need to align to in order to get the experience that you want. All the work we do is in consciousness. That is our playroom. That is where we go in and we do what is needed to be done to get the reality to reflect back the reflection that we want to experience. Keep in mind, we are not doing this to get an outcome from reality. Reality is the feedbacks for our consciousness. So we are working in consciousness. That's all we have control over. We do not have control over reality. That is actually where I see a few people getting stuck in this, is that they're, especially with specific people, is they're using the law of assumption to get something from their specific person. That is going to create more struggle for yourself. And I've seen a few people in pain around that. The work is done in consciousness. We align in consciousness. And if something in our reality is not to our favor, is not what we want it to be, we go in, we take our attention off reality and we go into the state of consciousness that we want to be experienced, and we experience it in consciousness. And then we hold it, and that becomes the dominant story. And when the dominant story that we're holding in consciousness is embedded, then it's what gets pushed out and reflected back, because it's the subconscious that gets pushed out. It's not the conscious mind. The conscious mind kind of filters everything in, and then we decide what we're going to keep, what we're going to hold, and then we work with that and we embed that, and then that becomes kind of like that subconscious. We embed it so deep that it gets pushed out and reflected back in reality. That's the work that we're doing. So when it comes to your relationships, if you have any other unfavorable situation going on, it's a good idea to ask yourself, what are the assumptions that I have about the gender that I'm interested in? So if you are a woman interested in men, so you have a specific person who is a man, and that's not a favorable situation for you in whatever way it might be, I want you to step back and have a look at what are the assumptions that you have about men. And a lot of those assumptions will come from your initial caregiver. So that would be the father figure in your life, whether it's your biological father, adopted father, or a male caregiver. It doesn't really matter. Whoever was your first male caregiver, then that will be what influences the assumptions that you are holding in consciousness about that gender, about men. And if you did not have a father figure in your life, that in itself will indicate the assumptions that you have about men. So you really want to look in, what are the assumptions that you're holding about the gender that you're interested in? So if you're a man interested in women, then it's the same. If you're a man interested in men, a woman interested in women, it doesn't matter. Like if you're a transgender, it doesn't matter. Whatever gender you are interested in, I want you to ask yourself very honestly, what are the assumptions that you're holding about that gender? Chances are that story is still running in your consciousness now, and to some degree that will be getting pushed out and reflected back. If there is an unfavorable situation playing out in your reality, you want to go and look at what are the assumptions that you're holding about that particular gender, and look at the stories or the experiences that you experienced as a kid in your childhood, and you will find there's most likely a link there. Now, that's not where we stop this work. That's just identifying that we have an assumption running. So then what you want to do is you want to revise any unfavorable stories from your past that led to that assumption. So you want to create a new assumption in imagination, in consciousness, and it can help. You don't have to do this. This is what I do and it works for me. I go back and I revise any story that created that assumption. So if you had an assumption that men are unfaithful based on the experiences that you saw between your initial caregivers, you would go back and revise the story of your caregivers. So you would revise that person being faithful, however that works out. So you would then create that story in consciousness, and you would create a new memory. Now you don't have to do this, by the way. This is just a suggestion. This is what I do in my life and it really works. It's phenomenal. Like revision, Neville talks a lot about revision. It's a super powerful technique. And he does say anything that is unfavorable in your past has to be revised, because if it's not revised, that consciousness is still active now and it will be producing future events. So everything is happening here and now. There is no past and future. They're just concepts of consciousness. So we want to go and revise anything unfavorable that might be still playing out. And especially if you've got a situation that's unfavorable with your specific person, you want to look at what are the assumptions you're holding that possibly came from those earlier experiences in your childhood that might be still running today, and then revise them. Create the ideal scene and just, make it up. Use your imagination. That's what we're here for. That's our power. Like, your imagination is your superpower. So use it wisely, use it consciously to create the experiences that you want to have, and then hold those stories in consciousness. Replay them over and over, rehearse them, like get to know them. As the director, you're saying, all right, well, let's go again. Let's really embed this new story, and then just hold it, and your reality will reflect it back, because that is how this works. Reality will always reflect back the state of consciousness you're holding, and that includes in your relationships with your specific people. Your specific person is not outside of you. They are reflections of you. They are shadows. They're still people, but they are reflecting back the stories and the script that you're writing for them in consciousness. And those scripts are very old. Some of them, most of them. Certainly in my case, I've been rewriting a lot of very old scripts, and I'm seeing the reflections, I'm seeing the feedback in reality that is saying to me, yes, keep going. This is good work that you're doing. Your reality is your feedback, and it will give you the feedback of the work that you do in consciousness, because that's just the game. Go deep, ask yourself these questions, get curious, and you will be surprised by the answers. So please remember, you are the creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the producer, the writer, the director, and the actor in your movie. What you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you and assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. This is my wish for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, and share with family and friends. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you, and make sure you hit that notification button so you never miss a video. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.